Fear is our false expectations appearing real. But I don't do that, okay? I spend a good portion of the time talking about fear because what keeps you from pulling the trigger is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of what other people are going to think. Fear of what other people are going to say. And in some cases, where I come from, fear of what other people may do. Get your O levels and A levels and maybe go to some university, right? And how's your program worked out? We've had mother and father. We've had father, mother, and granddaughter. Not in this room. I keep saying this room, but in that room over there. And when we start talking about how fucked up they are, the granddaughter goes like this, looks at the mom looks at the dad, and the dad. And we don't have to even get them liquored up. The mothers say we fuck up our kids. Now, 99% of the fuck up is not on purpose. But whether it was on purpose or not, kids, it doesn't really make any difference, does it? If they fucked you up. Now, fucked you up vis-a-vis now. In America, when I was growing up, the gals wanted to have a house with a white picket fence. That's the story. White picket fence and 2.4 kids and 1.4 dogs, and live happily and retire. And in the old days, when you worked 30, 40 years, you got to watch at retirement. Not a super expensive watch like this, but you got to watch for retirement. And the pensions meant something. From the time I was 65 till the time I was 72, the first 7 years of my American-style pension, I donated. I gave back to the government. I only started collecting it when I was 73, about 2 years ago. And I made a lot of money. I don't know how anybody could live on it. And I made a lot of money. I'm at the top. Because you max out at a certain level, But I don't know how anybody could possibly, unless you lived in a caravan in fucking Tuskegee, Alabama, or fucking bumfuck Mississippi or someplace, or you lived in I can't even think of it. You lived in some shithole in Reading, and they've got poems about Reading that should have been bombed into oblivion during the Second World War. The national poet wrote a poem about Reading. So you've got all this, and the reason why I beat some of this stuff so much, and we could spend the entire seminar speaking about fear. Fear is our false expectations appearing real. But I don't do that, okay? I spend a good portion of the time talking about fear because what keeps you from pulling the trigger is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of what other people are going to think. Fear of what other people are going to say. And in some cases, where I come from, fear of what other people may do. We have a homework assignment coming up that I don't want to steal my thunder. But 2 kinds of pain that hurts and alters. Unfortunately, when I first started the seminar, I didn't know that I was going to hurt the people the way I treat them. I was there to alter their behavior. For those of you, like Pavlov's dog, electric shock, all that shit works. And when I was in the military, a long, long time ago, they still hit you and they electrode you, and this is in the training. And the best man at our wedding, a guy named Dave, I've been telling the story for 25 years, and I was telling it wrong, and we went to visit him a couple of years ago. He's a retired rancher in in Oklahoma. And he says he got caught during an exercise, and they put him out on an anthill. This has been on YouTube a million times. And after they beat him severely, and then they put honey all over his body and let the ants eat him for 3 days. He almost died. This is training. And so I asked Dave, is that true? He says, no. He says, you got one fact wrong. They didn't pour honey on me. They poured cocoa, chocolate. But he almost died. This is the training. And this is the training I went to. And so this is the same kind of training my father gave. But I didn't realize that it was going to hurt your feelings. All I want to do is alter your behavior. Now, this is at the bottom of your reports that you're going to write yourself. There's a section, what am I not telling Dan? And this is a recent one. I wanted to give you a progress update. I visited 5 banks last week and have a meeting with 3 more next week. I used to see 5 banks a day. I want to start seeking the ideal lenders, bad word, lenders, week after next. Funny story, I was walking in between banks that I had pre-scheduled meetings with and walked by a Bank of America branch. I walked in, and at first they asked if I was there for a mortgage. I was dressed accordingly, like this, and I said, does it look like I'm looking for a mortgage? Anyway, the bank manager brought me in his lender's office, and told him our deal was hundreds of millions. Long story short, they contacted the corporate bank on the 35th floor of the IDS building. I guess that's a building. No one available, so I left. I got about 2 blocks away in the skywalk. This is Minneapolis, where they have skywalks. And the bank manager was running down the skywalk yelling, hey, sir, we got a hold of of Travis, I guess that's his name, and he is on his way down. Can you come back? And then he says, ha, ha, ha. He was so out of breath he could barely talk. They will chase you down the streets to put money in your pocket. They will chase you down the streets. And when you write this stuff out and you review it, and my suggestion to you, and when Dad suggests, that means, listen, meathead, is you do daily reports for yourself. Because there's no more crystal clear way to find out whether you're accomplishing anything unless you're writing it as you write it at night. And then when you do your affirmations and goals, which we'll show you how to do later, and you read your affirmations and goals, and then you look at the results of your daily report. And if the results from your daily report do not directly support your goals, then something's wrong. And that's how world-class athletes, which I've had the privilege of training some, they review their shit daily. You're going to get this. This is is our template for how you look at deals. And it's not important. It's self-explanatory. But you go through, and for example, debt to EBITDA. These are the various acquisition candidates on the left. And I've changed the names, so these aren't the real names. Otherwise, you'd be calling them. I didn't even think of that a few years ago. And this was a guy's deals, your deals. And then we had 4 seminars, 100 people, meatheads, calling your deals and fucking up your deals. Never dawned on me that you would do that. So now we put phony names. And it says, what their margins are. Now, the ones that gross margin, I tell you should have gross margin between 20 and 40%. There are only 2 people in this room that have that big of margins. 2. And you're still running the business into the ground for shit. If you can't make a business run on 40% margin, you ought to kill yourself. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Everybody deserves to live. So it says what the margins is. So you go down the margins, gross margins. 100%, that's a great one. 21%, maybe. But that's the only 2 that are worth a shit on there. And he spent all this time on all these fucking acquisition candidates for 2. In the templates it's going to show you, and you're going to see how Josh does it and how I do it, that you went 3 years, financials, and most of their financials are going to be like QuickBooks shit, which doesn't mean anything. We all know that QuickBooks means nothing. QuickBooks are what you put in there, okay? And you went 3-year tax returns, because most people won't lie on the tax returns, except for in Asian countries. They don't lie on the tax returns because you can go to jail. But it's part of your honor if you lie on your tax returns in India and China. So you went 3 years tax returns, and you went their financials. And when I show you how to scan the financials in about between 10 and 45 seconds, you can figure out what the gross margin is instantly. And if the gross margin is 2%, next. If they won't send you the tax returns, next. And I mean, one of the questions you often ask, Dan, how soon is it too soon for me to hound this guy because he hasn't given me the information in 3 days? I used to wait hours before I gave him another call. I'd go to their fucking office. The great thing about Manhattan, the good news is Manhattan is tough. The bad news is the bad news is New Yorkers are tough, Manhattan people especially. The good news is you can see 100 businesses in a week. So you go through the market, there's only 2 worth following up there. And then what did the bank say? Or the debt service, blah, blah, blah. And then the motivation to sell, bank is calling debt. That's a big motivation to sell. Of course, they're losing money. Wanting to expand, but their margin isn't worth a shit. Retiring, no clear reason to sell. I don't like people that don't have a clear reason to sell. I normally skip those because there's something sub rosa under the skin, and I don't have time to look to figure it out. And it's not your job to convince these cocksuckers to sell. I'm going to say it again. It's not your job to convince these cocksuckers to sell. It's their job to convince you to buy. And when you hear the examples, next. Now, the young kids say, thank you very much for your time. I don't. As soon as I got a negative, I just hang the phone up. Because me saying thank you very much for your time, what did it take, 3, 4, 5 seconds? You multiply that times 1,000 calls, you wasted a lot of fucking time. Now, I don't consider that ruthless. The French bitch does. But this is a great template to use. Okay.